My cousin falsely accused me and stole my $50,000 college fund. My parents exiled me for 3 years without evidence. But when she confessed before dying that it was all a lie, I exposed the truth. And now, my family will never forgive me. I'm 21 years old. I work in logistics for a distribution company. And like 2 weeks ago, I did something my family will never forgive me for. But the truth is, I don't care anymore because they didn't forgive me either when I needed them most. Basically, I exposed the whole truth about what happened to me 3 years ago on social media when I was 18. And now my family is furious because according to them, I'm destroying the memory of my cousin Sierra. But you know what? She destroyed my life first. And for 3 years, everyone believed I was guilty of something I never did. I guess I should start at the beginning, when everything was normal. I mean, before everything went to shit. I lived with my parents. I was about to graduate high school. I had a college fund that my parents had been saving since I was born. I had friends. I had plans. I had a life. My cousin Sierra was 4 years older than me. She was already in college, and we had always been close. I don't know. She was like a big sister to me because we grew up together. Our families were always very united. Her dad, my uncle, is my mom's younger brother, and he raised Sierra alone after his wife left them when Sierra was like 6 years old, so my mom was always very present in their lives. And I spent a lot of time with Sierra when we were kids. Things started getting weird like 2 months before my graduation. Sierra had turned 22, and her dad told her he wasn't going to keep paying for her college anymore, that she was already an adult and had to work and finance her own education if she wanted to keep studying. My uncle isn't rich. I mean, he's an accountant and earns well, but Sierra was at a super expensive private university studying graphic design or something like that, and he had been paying for everything for 4 years, tuition, her apartment, her car, everything. And when he told her he couldn't do it anymore, that she had to start being independent, Sierra went crazy. There was a huge fight. I wasn't there, but my mom told me later. Sierra screamed at my uncle that he was betraying her. How could he think of cutting off her money just when she had 2 years left to graduate? That she couldn't work and study at the same time because her classes were very demanding. Basically a complete drama. A couple of weeks after that fight, Sierra showed up at my house. I remember that day perfectly because it was a Saturday. I was in my room playing video games with some friends online, and my mom yelled for me to come down because Sierra was there and wanted to talk to me. I went down and she was sitting in the living room having coffee with my parents, and when she saw me, she asked if we could talk alone. We went up to my room, she closed the door, and started crying. She told me her dad was being horrible to her, that she didn't understand why he was punishing her like that she just wanted to finish her degree, and it wasn't fair that he was forcing her to work when she should be concentrating on her studies. I honestly didn't know what to tell her. I mean, I understood her frustration, but I also thought my uncle had a point. She was already an adult, and there were people who worked and studied at the same time all the time. I told her that, basically. I told her I understood it was difficult, but maybe her dad had a point. That she could get a part-time job, that a lot of people did it and survived, that it wasn't the end of the world. And she got mad at me. She told me I didn't understand anything. That it was easy for me to say that when my parents were paying for everything, that I had no idea what it was like to have to worry about money. I told her yes. She was right about that. But she still couldn't expect her dad to support her whole life, you know what I mean? And she left my house furious, like she didn't even say goodbye to my parents. She just grabbed her stuff and left. I thought, well, she's mad. She'll get over it. I never imagined what she was going to do the next day. The next day, a Sunday, I was having breakfast with my parents when the doorbell rang. It was the police. 2 officers asked for me, said they needed to talk to me about a serious accusation they had received. My parents were in shock. I was in shock. I didn't understand anything. The officers asked me if Sierra had been at my house the day before. I said yes. They asked me if we had been alone in my room. I said yes. And then they told me she had called them that morning, accusing me of sexually assaulting her. I literally felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just kept repeating, no, that didn't happen. We were just talking and nothing else. That she was lying. My parents at first believed me. I mean, they defended me in front of the police. They said that was impossible, that I would never do something like that Sierra must be confused or lying for some reason. The officers left after asking me like 1,000 questions. They said they were going to investigate and would contact me if they needed anything else. I was devastated. I called Sierra like 20 times, but she didn't answer. I sent her messages asking why she was doing this. I begged her to tell the truth. Nothing. My uncle called my mom that same day screaming, saying I was a monster, how dare I touch his daughter, that he was going to put me in jail. My mom tried to calm him down, told him there must be a misunderstanding, but he didn't want to hear anything. Then my parents asked to see the security cameras from the house. We had cameras at the entrance, in the living room, in the hallway, not in my room obviously, but in the common areas, and that's when everything went to hell. The cameras showed Sierra leaving my room crying, going down the stairs quickly, and leaving the house without saying anything. My parents saw that and their attitude changed completely. My mom started crying. My dad looked at me like I was a stranger. And when I tried to explain to them that, yes, she had left crying, but because we were arguing about the situation with my uncle, that I hadn't done anything wrong, they didn't believe me. My mom said the cameras don't lie, that it was obvious something had happened for Sierra to leave like that. My dad said he was disappointed in me, that he never thought I would be capable of something like that. I tried to defend myself. I swear I tried. I explained the whole conversation I'd had with Sierra. I told them she was mad at me because I hadn't supported her with the thing about her dad. That she was probably lying to get revenge or to get attention or, I don't know, but that I hadn't done anything. My dad said he wasn't going to have an abuser living in his house. My mom said she couldn't even look at me. And then, like 2 days later, they told me they had made a decision. They told me they were going to give my college fund to Sierra so she could finish her degree, and that they were going to send me to live with my great-uncle in Iowa until I turned 18. My great-uncle, let me tell you, is probably the most horrible person I know. He's like 70 years old, lives alone in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. He's a bitter man with anger issues who hates everyone. My parents basically exiled me there as punishment. They told me I had a week to pack my things, that I could only take what fit in 2 suitcases, and that I couldn't contact any of my friends or family members, that I had to cut all ties with my previous life. It was surreal. I mean, I was 2 months away from graduating. I had to leave school, leave my friends, leave everything, and nobody believed me. My friends tried to contact me when I suddenly disappeared, but my parents told them I had moved for personal reasons and couldn't talk to anyone. Years later, I found out my parents told some relatives and close neighbors vague version of what had happened, so basically everyone thought I was an abuser. I arrived in Iowa in March, I think, or maybe April. I don't remember exactly. My great-uncle's house was a disaster. It smelled weird. It was full of old stuff and dust, and he made it very clear from day one that he didn't want me there. He told me I was a disgrace to the family, that my parents were too soft on me, and that he was going to teach me discipline. The first months were hell. I worked in his yard every day under the sun, cleaned the house, cooked. Basically, I was his servant, and he yelled at me for everything. Anything I did wrong or that he didn't like was a reason for him to yell at me or threaten to throw me out on the street. I turned 18 inches June, and as soon as I did, I started desperately looking for work because I knew I had to get out of there, or I was going to go crazy. I got a job at a warehouse like 20 minutes from where my great-uncle lived. The job was horrible. I loaded boxes all day, earned minimum wage, but it was my ticket out. There were 2 guys who worked with me. One was named Marcus and the other David, both like 20 years old, and we became friends quickly because we were basically the only young people in that warehouse full of bitter old men. After my first paycheck, I told them about my situation. Not the whole truth because I was still ashamed and scared. I just told them I had family problems and was living with a relative who treated me badly, and I needed to get out of there. Marcus told me he and David were renting a small apartment, and if I wanted, I could move in with them, that we'd split the rent 3 ways. I accepted without thinking twice. The next 3 years were weird. I mean, on one hand, I was building a new life. I had my job. I had Marcus and David, who became like my brothers. We changed jobs together after like a year because we got something better paid in logistics. I started saving money to eventually be able to pay for college myself, but on the other hand, I felt empty all the time because I had no family. I didn't have my parents. I didn't have my childhood friends. I had nothing from my previous life. And all the time I thought about Sierra. I wondered why she had done that, what she had gained, if she was ever going to tell the truth. My parents never contacted me in those 3 years, not a call, not a message, nothing. I didn't contact them either because I was angry, hurt. I felt they had abandoned me when I needed them most. And then, like 2 months ago, I received an email from my uncle. It was the first time anyone from my family had contacted me in 3 years. The email said Sierra was very sick, that she had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, that it was terminal, and that she had asked to talk to me. At first, I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to ignore the email and move on with my life. But another part needed answers. Needed to understand why she had done what she did. I responded to my uncle asking why Sierra wanted to talk to me, and he replied saying only that she had something important to tell me before she died. I didn't go see her. I couldn't. Honestly, I didn't have the money to travel, and besides, I didn't know if emotionally I could handle seeing her. But like a week later, my uncle sent me another email. This one was longer, and basically said, Sierra had confessed everything. That she had lied about the sexual assault, that nothing had ever happened, that she had made it all up because she was desperate for money and knew that if she accused me, my parents would punish me and probably give her money. That she had calculated the whole situation, had waited until we were alone so she could accuse me without witnesses, and had left my house crying on purpose knowing the cameras would catch her to make it look real. That for 3 years she had lived with the guilt, but hadn't said anything, because she was using my college fund money and was afraid of the consequences. My uncle's email also said he was asking for my forgiveness, that he didn't know how he could have believed Sierra without questioning anything, that he understood if I could never forgive them, but that I needed to know the truth. He also told me Sierra had squandered all the money, that instead of using it for college as supposedly was the plan, she had gone traveling for a whole year through Europe and Asia, had come back and bought an apartment she couldn't maintain, had lived beyond her means, and now with the cancer, she had had to sell everything to pay for medical treatments, that she was broke and dying, and that in the end she had decided to tell the truth because she didn't want to die being a liar. I read that email like 50 times. I didn't know how to feel. I was angry. I was relieved that finally the truth came out. I was sad because basically I had lost 3 years of my life because of a lie. I was confused about what to do now with this information. That night, I told Marcus and David everything. It was the first time I told them the complete story. From the accusation to the exile to this email. They were silent for a while when I finished. And then Marcus said I needed to make this story public, that I couldn't let my family and everyone else keep thinking I was guilty when now there was proof of my innocence. David agreed. Said, I deserve to clear my name. But I was scared, honestly. I replied to my uncle asking if my parents knew the truth, and he said yes, that he had told them as soon as Sierra confessed. So I sent an email to my parents. The first in 3 years. I told them my uncle had told me about Sierra's confession, and that now that the truth had come out, I wanted to know what they were going to do about it. My mom responded 2 days later with a long email, basically asking for my forgiveness, saying they had made a terrible mistake, that they should never have believed me guilty without real evidence, that they understood if I hated them, but hoped we could rebuild our relationship. But nowhere in the email did they mention doing anything to publicly clear my name. So I wrote them again, saying I was going to post the whole story on social media so everyone would know the truth. The response was immediate and desperate. My parents called me for the first time in 3 years, begging me not to do that Sierra was dying and posting this was going to destroy her in her last days, that the family was going to be divided, that I was going to cause unnecessary drama. I told them she had destroyed me first, that I had lost 3 years of my life, my education, my family, my friends, everything because of her lie, and that now that I had the chance to clear my name, I was going to do it no matter what they thought. My mom cried. My dad told me I was being cruel and vindictive, but I had already made my decision. I hung up the phone and started writing the post. I published it on all my social media, Facebook, Instagram. I even made a long post on Reddit because, why not? I told the whole story from the beginning, from the false accusation to the exile to Sierra's confession. I included screenshots of my uncle's email, where he explained the confession. I didn't include my parents' emails because those were more personal. But I did make it clear they knew the truth now and had tried to prevent me from making it public to protect Sierra. The post went viral in like 2 hours. I mean, not viral like millions of views, but viral in my circle of acquaintances and in the community where I'm from. Friends from high school I hadn't seen in 3 years started commenting, saying they had always suspected there was something weird about my sudden disappearance. Distant relatives commented, offering support. Even some old neighbors commented, saying my parents owed me an apology for judging me wrong. My parents sent me like 20 furious messages after I posted. They said I was embarrassing the family, that I was insensitive for exposing Sierra when she was dying, that they would never forgive me for this. I sent them one last message saying they never forgave me for something I didn't do. My uncle sent me a much calmer email, basically saying he understood why I had done what I did, that he would have done the same, but that Sierra had died 2 days after I posted, and my parents blamed me for causing her additional stress in her last days. Honestly, I don't know how to feel about that. Like, on one hand, I didn't want Sierra to die, obviously, but on the other hand, she made the decision to lie knowing the consequences, and I wasn't going to keep carrying her lie just to protect her. Last week, Marcus, David, and I drove back to my hometown. It was the first time I'd been back in 3 years. I met up with some of my old friends from high school at a cafe, and it was weird but good, like finding pieces of your life you thought you'd lost forever. Everyone asked me where I'd been, what I'd done, and I told them everything. Some of my relatives, uncles, and cousins who had read my post contacted me to say they had cut contact with my parents after finding out what they did to me, that they were on my side, that if I needed anything to let them know. It was bittersweet. I mean, on one hand I felt validated and supported, but on the other hand I realized how much I had lost in those 3 years. Now I'm back in my apartment with Marcus and David, working on saving more money to start classes next year, probably at a community college, because I don't have the money for anything more, and because I lost 3 years, so I need to catch up. My parents still aren't talking to me. The family is divided between those who support me and those who think I went too far by exposing Sierra publicly. But honestly, I don't care anymore what they think. I spent 3 years carrying the guilt for something I didn't do. 3 years being treated like a criminal. 3 years building a life from scratch without anyone's support. And now finally the truth is out there, and I can move forward without that shadow over me. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive my parents for abandoning me so easily, for believing Sierra without even questioning her, for prioritizing their relationship with her over their relationship with me. I guess that's something I'll have to process over time. But for now, I'm focused on my future, on finishing my education, on maintaining the friendships and connections I've built in these 3 years, and on not letting what happened define me forever. The truth finally came out, and that has to be enough for now.